Men of Iron, Chapter 16. I have no intention to describe the fight between Myles Falworth and Walter Blunt. Fisticuffs are brutal and debasing enough, but a fight with a sharp-edged broadsword was not only brutal and debasing, but cruel and quite bloody as well. From the very first of the fight, Myles Falworth was palpably and obviously outmatched. After 15 minutes had passed, Blunt stood hale and sound as at first, but poor Myles had more than one red stain of warm blood upon doublet and hose, and more than one bandage had been wrapped by Guskin and Wilkes about sore wounds. He had received no quite serious injury as of yet, for not only was his body protected by a buckler, or small oblong shield, which he carried upon his left arm, and his head by a bascinet, or light helmet of steel, but perhaps, after all, Blunt was not over-anxious to do him any dangerous harm. Nevertheless, there could be but one opinion as to how the fight tended, and Myles's friends were gloomy and quite downcast. The bachelors, proportionally exultant, shouting with laughter and taunting Myles at every unsuccessful stroke. Once, as he drew back panting, leaning upon Guskin's shoulder, the faithful friend whispered with trembling lips, "Myles, carry it no further. Ye hurt him not, and he will slay you before ye have done with you." Thereupon Blunt, who caught the drift of the speech, put in a word. "Ye are sore hurt, Myles Falworth," said he, "and I would do you no grievous harm. Yield you, and own yourself beaten. I will forgive you. Ye have fought a very good fight. There is no shame in yielding now." "Never," cried Myles hoarsely. "Never will I yield me. Ye may slay me, Walter Blunt, and I reck not if ye do so, but never else will ye conquer me." There was a tone of desperation in his voice that made all look quite serious. "Nay," said Blunt, "I will fight you no more, Myles Falworth. Ye've had enough." By heavens," cried Myles, grinding his teeth, "ye shall fight me, you coward. You have brought this fight upon us, and either ye or I get our quittance here. Let go, Guskin," he cried, shaking loose his friend's hold. "I tell you, he shall fight me." From that moment, Blunt began to lose his head. No doubt he had not thought of such a serious fight as this when he gave his challenge, and there was a savage bulldog tenacity about Myles that could not have had a somewhat demoralizing effect upon him. A few blows were given and taken, and then Myles' friends gave a shout. Blunt drew back and placed his hand to his shoulder. When he drew it away again, it was stained with red, and another red stain grew and spread rapidly upon the sleeve of his jacket. He stared at his hand for a moment with a half-dazed look, and then glanced quickly to the right and left. "I will fight no more," said he suddenly. "Then yield!" cried Myles exultantly. The triumphant shouts of the Knights of the Rose stung Blunt like a lash, and the battle began again. Perhaps some of the older lads were of a mind to interfere at this point. Certainly some looked very serious, but before they interposed, the fight had ended. Blunt, grinding his teeth, struck one undercut at his opponent, the same undercut that Myles had struck at Sir James Lee at the knight's bidding when he first practised at the Delvin Pells. Myles met the blow as Sir James had met that blow, and then struck in return as Sir James had struck, full and true. The bascinet that Blunt wore glanced the blow partly, but not entirely. Myles felt his sword bite through the light steel cap, and Blunt dropped his own blade clattering upon the floor. It was all over in that instant, but at that instant what he saw was stamped upon Myles' mind with an impedable print. He saw the young man stagger backward. He saw the eyes roll upward, and a red streak shoot out from under the cap and run down across the cheek. Blunt reeled half around, and then fell prostrate upon his face. Myles stood there, staring at him with the delirious turmoil of his battle dissolving rapidly into dumb fear at what he had done. Once again he had won, but what a victory! "Is he dead?" he whispered to Guskin. "I know not," said Guskin, with a very pale face. "Let's come away, Myles," and he led his friend out of the room. Some little while later, one of the bachelors came to the dormitory where Myles, his wound smarting and aching and throbbing, lay stretched on his cot, and with a very serious face bade him go presently to Sir James, who had come from dinner and was then in his office. By this time Myles knew that he had not slain his enemy, and his heart was light in spite of the coming interview. There was no one in the office but Sir James and himself, and Myles, without concealing anything, told point by point the whole trouble. Sir James sat looking steadily at him for a while after he had ended. "Never," said he presently, "did I know any one of ye squires, in all the time that I have been here, to get himself into so many broils as you, Myles Falworth. Perhaps ye sought to take this lad's life." "Nay," said Myles earnestly, "God forbid." "Nevertheless," said Sir James, "ye fetched him a main shrewd blow, and it is by good hap, and no fault of yours, that he will live to do more mischief yet. This is your second venture at him. The third time, mayhap, ye will end him for good." Then, suddenly assuming his grimness and sternest manner, "Now, sirrah, do I put a stop to this, and no more shall ye fight with edged tools. Get ye to the dormitory, abide there a full week without coming forth. Michael shall bring you bread and water twice a day for that time. That is all the food ye shall have, and ye shall see if that fare will not cool your hot-headed humours." Myles had expected a punishment so much more severe than that which was meted to him, that in the sudden relief he broke into a convulsive laugh, and then, with a hasty sweep, wiped a brimming moisture from his eyes. Sir James looked keenly at him for a moment. "Ye are white of the face," said he. "Are ye wounded very sorely?" "Nay," said Myles, "it is not much, but I be sick in my stomach." "Aye, aye," said Sir James, "I know that feeling well. It is thus that one always feels in coming from sore battle when one has suffered wounds, and quite lost blood. If ye would keep yourself hale, keep yourself from any more needless fighting. Now get ye to the dormitory, and as I said, come ye not forth again for a week. Stay, sirrah," he added, "I will send George the barber to look at your sores. Green wounds are best drawn and salved before they grow cold." I wonder what Myles would have thought had he known that as soon as he had left the office, Sir James had gone straight to the Earl and recounted the whole matter to him, with a deal of dry gusto, and the Earl listened laughing. "Aye," said he, when Sir James had done, "the boy does have mettle, sure. Nevertheless, we must transplant this fallow blunt to the office of gentleman-in-waiting. He must be old enough now, and if he stays in this present place, either he will do the boy harm, or the boy will do him harm." So Blunt never came again to trouble the squire's quarters, and thereafter the youngest rendered no more service to the elders. Myles' first great fight in his life was won.